And you're back with In Gear. I'm Tommy Two Gloves, that cigarette Pepsi guy. Listen, guys, we got a lot of great topics today. We're going to hit up on leadership. I got a funny story to bring us off. We got bad bosses, great bosses, and of course, coming up on the 81st anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack. We have to hit that. We got to touch on that.
Oh, absolutely. Especially being two Hawaiian guys right now. Like, that's going to be big for us.
Some would say we're a couple of island boys.
Yeah, but we're going to save that for a little bit. What are we going into first?
So I have to bring up a story, something that I just thought about today. Super funny.
Okay.
Have you ever drinking urine?
Oh, I'm thinking no. Maybe inadvertently.
Can you say for sure that you've never willingly drank urine? Maybe even for the sake of drowning, drinking urine.
What scenario are you talking about? Like a situation where I'm like drowning and I need to drink urine in order to not drown? Like, I don't understand.
Yes, exactly. So what happened to me, I had to be I think I was fresh out of high school. I had to have been like 18 or so, maybe even 19.
Yeah,
I started dating this girl.
Fresh hair on your fucking sack, man.
Oh, I'm talking like tiny little baby pubes, right? So I'm sitting there. I meet up with this girl and we start talking. You know how it is when you're young.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking, we start hanging out a bunch and we're doing our thing. And I'm down there, I'm eating her out. And I'm like going for it, playing with her, making sure she's good to go and she's happy.
Yeah, you got to warm it up.
Of course. And all of a sudden, she starts squirting everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I've never dealt with this. Looks pretty cool. Dope. Obviously, she's into it. So I'm going to go with it. So I keep doing what I'm doing. And so she squirted everywhere. We go on, another couple of dates. We're hanging out. We're official. In that time period, I Google, what is squirting? What's it all about?
Right.
And, what is it? What does it do? And at that time, we're running off dial up, information was very hard to obtain on that sort of subject.
Yeah, actually, go ahead and feel free to chime in, listeners. If you have an opinion on it, is squirt urine or is it something special? Go ahead and email us at ingearpodcast@gmail.com.
Of course, we need to hear all your squirting stories. We're interested. We'll read them all. Everything you got, we're there. So continuing on, the next time, because I love eating girls out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I just like it.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their preferences.
Yes.
But, it's something that's very much enjoyable to me. So I'm eating her out one day. I'm laying on my back. She crawls over and she's kind of sitting on my chest, making out with me, leaning over, making out with me, making me feel good, just making me feel like I'm the only guy in the world she needs. So then she brings her body up and is kind of sitting on my face at this point, but rubbing her vagina all over my face.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hot. And
I think we've all been there once or twice in our lives.
I know. And she's rubbing it all over my face. I'm like, hell yeah, this is dope. And she was a big coffee drinker at the time. Her parents just always made her coffee. Always had a coffee maker going. So she was one of those big Starbucks girls, stuff like that. So she, that'll come into play later. She comes up to my face. She's right in my face. And she just starts squirting all over my face. But then she moves it down to my mouth. So I'm still trying to do the deed, spell out the ABCs with my tongue, right?
Yeah.
And she's at this point, my mouth is getting filled with urine.
Oh.
Piss.
So then your opinion is squirt is urine.
I don't know if she just pushed that out because that's what she felt like she was doing. So what happened was my mouth starts filling up. She's up there going ham, just riding. And I really can't do anything but flail my arms, try to get out of there. And she's just taking that as oh, this is great, I guess.
Yeah.
So my mouth at that point is now filling with urine. My mouth gets filled to the point where I start coughing on it because I can't breathe really anywhere. And breathing through my nose, I guess, wasn't an option at that time. So I'm coughing up urine everywhere. And she's just, she's orgasm. She's doing the whole nine, right? And
she went full porn star on you, dude.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, dude, I had to swallow in order to take a breath of air that I needed to be able to not pass out. So I swallowed this girl's urine, not out of choice, but by necessity for my life.
Like a goddamn champ, it sounds like.
She backs off. She moves back. She looks at me and she goes, oh, it's so cute when it's all over your face. And then wipes off my mouth with her fucking piss. And I'm telling you, dude, she had to drink 12 cups of coffee a day. It was yellow, smelly, disgusting piss. And I swear to God, I'll never put myself in that situation again.
Right. It's not the good kind of piss that everybody wants. It's that bad piss.
I mean, yeah, that was bad piss. And I mean, you know what it's like when you drink a bunch of water and it's pretty much clear. Now, I can't say whether clear piss tastes better than, yellow piss, but I would have to assume it tastes less like Starbucks coffee and shit than, more maybe water-based, if you will.
I guess so.
Whatever. Hey, listen, like Justin said, if you are a piss expert, a squirting expert, please reach out to us. We need to know.
Hey, and I'm going to go ahead and move this topic just slightly to the left, keeping the same genre here. But hey, what are your thoughts on fake boobs?
I have never had the opportunity to experience or touch or feel anything like that. I know I had a boss. I worked for a summer job. I was building pools, and my boss's wife had fake boobs. And, even being an older woman, the fake boobs still look nice. It's almost like you could be as old as you want and get fake boobs and they're still nice boobs. But I personally can say I'm not against them. If that's what a woman feels like she needs to do, I'll fully support it. But
100%. Yeah.
Personally, I just haven't had the experience. Have you? Have you had any experience with that?
I actually have, believe it or not.
Tell me.
Yeah. So it's not that great of a story. I mean, I got with a girl and she had fake boobs. I think it was like a one night stand or something like that, and I mean, I got to say, to be honest with you, and I know this, some women might have breast cancer or something, have to have, what is that, a mastectomy?
Yep. Yeah. I had a friend. She got implants, which is, she had to actually have her breasts removed. I'm not sure if that's the proper term because of the cancer, breast cancer.
Right.
But she got something, and all more power to it. That's what you need to do. That's fine. I'm not bashing on anybody that has to do that or needs something to feel a certain way.
Of course. And yeah, but this person I happened to get with just wanted the look and the bigger boobs and everything. So I got with her, and there is a difference. It does feel a little different, or maybe she had a bad boob job. I don't know. Of course, my experience is completely anecdotal compared to what other people have went through, and I've not seen a large mass of fake boobs coming my way. But
I'll make sure
that
if I find
particular scenario was not great.
Could you tell? Was it the look? Was it the feel? And did she tell you, hey, just so you know, before I sleep with you, I have fake boobs? Or was that pre-established? Or did you just know, like, at what point did you come to the conclusion, like, wow, these are some fake tits?
Oh, I think it was the look and the feel, to be honest with you. And I don't know if maybe she got a bad boob job because they looked really, like, globy. And they didn't have that normal, I guess, U shape you might see on a natural woman. But
would you say they're comparable to two fried eggs nailed to a wall?
I mean, first of all, they just pointed straight up, and the woman I got with, by the way, was no spring chicken. Like there was no sag in him at all, so you knew something was up right away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you follow him. There's a doctor on TikTok called the Dick Doc on TikTok.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about him.
Yeah. And he talks about like men's penis size and what you can do to like, increase your penis size and like length and girth and stuff like that, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel like that's on that same level. If women can do those sort of things, whether it's a BBL, and that's not only limited to women or men, anybody can volunteer for this, any of those, procedures. You're a man. You can get boobs if you want boobs. It might not look good, but you can be a man with double D gorgeous tits.
100%. I mean, you can make your body however you want it to be. A lot of people might object to the fact that you and I both have tattoos, but at the end of the day, who's the one that's living with them? You and I.
I agree with you completely. So have I? No. Would I like to? I mean, we might have to have somebody on here, set them up in the studio, drop them out and take a quick look, see what's going on. But in the heat of the moment, am I very desperately trying to get a little bit of fake boob access? Not really. Yeah. But if it comes my way, it comes my way. So
I agree.
I got to touch on a subject that I've wanted to talk about for a little while. It kind of falls under the leadership category, and maybe there's some, I don't know if you would say preambles or some pre-subjects to that kind of roll into that. But I want to know, have you, Justin, had any bosses throughout your, because you're an older gentleman like myself, and we've been in the workforce for a long time. Are there any bosses that you've had that just you completely can't stand, you hated, the job was good, but they ruined it for you, or the job was shitty, but the bosses made it great, or they took care of you? Like, have you had any situation where you've had a bad boss?
Yeah, I absolutely have. I know one comes to mind in particular right off the bat. I used to work at a radio station for a short while. And part of the reason I worked there for a short while was my boss at the time, they hired me to mostly sell radio ads to businesses. And that was all good and well. But that was just about all the guidance that I had as far as um, how to go about it, pricing on the ads or anything. And I know she got on to me like, hey, you're not, at one point she got on to me, hey, you're not bringing customers to me, the boss, to sell these ads. And I'm like, I never understood that was the expectation. I thought I would go out. She's like, no, you should be setting up these meetings with these people to talk to me. If you can't close the deal on them, they should come to me, and this and that and the other. And
Is that normal in the radio community? Is that how it's supposed to work? Like, you were in the radio game for a while, so like, I don't know if is that normal. Is that do you agree or disagree with her? Like, is that normally how that's ran? Or
I think typically, and I also worked in a newspaper for a while, and I think typically, as far as these media, these more old school media, if you will, I think typically you will have these sales representatives, and they'll have like structured buy this package and this is what you get type deals. But I never had any of that. I never to this day do not know how much we were selling radio time for. I don't know.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to make a sale like that when I don't know what I'm offering the customer?
Yeah. There's some information there that has to be passed out. Just, it's almost like, someone once told me, I have a father figure in my life for quite a while, as well as my own father, just Gary DeMacy, just Gary.
Yeah, you've talked about him a lot.
He's been.
I've got the opportunity to be on the phone and have you like FaceTime with him. He seems like a great guy.
He has to be one of the most influential characters in my life. Him, my father, and amongst other men, just one of the most influential people in my life. And what he told me was, and I try to teach this when I'm at work and I'm trying to teach other people my job and stuff like that. It doesn't matter if you're doing something or if you're doing it well, if you don't know why you're doing it.
I can understand that.
If you can get some information as to you're doing this because of this and it affects you this way or the company this way, then you can more understand the procedures and steps in place of completing that task or, the way you should be coming about it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. You can go out there and, for example, you can go turn a bolt 50 million times a year, but if you don't know why you're turning it, it adds a sense of value to the task you're doing. Instead of working on think of it production line, instead of just sitting there doing the same thing over and over, you're now given a little more insight and purpose to why you're doing something and why it's that certain way. And I remember, learning about, what because I worked with him as a crew chief on his rally race team.
Yeah, he's a big car guy.
Yeah, and he always told me, we're doing this like this, we're doing this like that, and this is why we're doing it. And it made a lot of sense to me. It was like, okay, now I get it. So the next task I move on to that, maybe I didn't have his guidance, I would know, hey, maybe I should do this because of this. And that's all those relatable experiences and how they relate to each other that are going to make you a better, worker, boss, leader, whatever it may be.
100%. I know. So when I was new to this company that I worked at, I would listen to the people above me and how they got there, and I'd learn from how they would lead people. And one person said to me, and it stuck with me, and I later became a let's say a middle management at this company.
Yeah.
And they said, I'm never going to get on to someone for not knowing what they don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, you don't know it. Exactly. And that's fine as long as you're teachable and you can learn from it. That's what you need to do. And so I took that with me when I actually took that guy's job. And I think it's incredibly valuable to pass that on to other people where, we're all here. We want to make some money. We want to go home. We want to see our family. And that's great. But we want to do a good job and we want to be respected and valued at the same time. And, getting in the ass of an employee, there are seldom, if ever, times where I think that has much value.
I would agree with that too. And, everybody learns different ways, right? Some people learn from a nice sit down conversation. Some people learn from, visually seeing something, and that's what also will make you a great boss, a great leader, a great mentor is figuring out who you're working with, learning your people, learning your coworkers and, your, I don't know how you would say people under you, like learning, I don't even want to say subordinates because I don't think that's really the right word to use there, but people that you're trying to teach and mentor,
Right.
it's getting to learn them on a personal level also and understand how they learn things and tailoring, your leadership aspect to them,
Yeah,
you
and I
know?
think too, like you'll have employees that some of them will be very self-driven and motivated, and they'll
Oh
come
yeah.
up to you and they'll want to, oh, how come you're doing this? Why are you, leading us this way? And they'll ask those questions. And there's the insecure type of leader that's going to be like, get away from me. I don't want to explain this and this and that. But just like if you're working at an employer and you are trying to maybe get the job of the guy above you, they're probably wanting to take your job at some point.
Yeah.
And
You should
I
always be
think it's a
aiming for that
very
upper level.
what's that?
The level above you. So like for example, you come into Walmart, right? As a regular employee, you should be learning, kind of like what that manager's job does. And because that should be the goal is to always progress. And
I don't
if
know if
you
I'd say, hey, yo, you're sacking groceries. You need to learn the manager's job. Maybe you need to learn the, shift supervisor's job first.
Okay, yeah, I would say that. I think, yeah, I would agree with that. So, I had a boss actually when I was very young. I think I was 17. And before I get into that sort of story, I have to say and give a little bit of pay homage to my uncle Steve. He's very successful man. He's had multiple multiple endeavors, real estate endeavors, like everything. He's the epitome of success and what it means to start from the bottom.
Yeah.
And what he told me when I was young, I was kind of in this weird headspace being, a 17, 18-year-old kid. I had a shitty chin strap. All I cared about was getting pussy and fucking girls and really
I
didn't
don't
have
know
any
how you
direction.
got any pussy with that goddamn beard you had, dude.
I know, it was disgusting. So what happened was I talked to my uncle and he's like, "Hey, listen, what's going on with you? You're leaving these jobs. You don't have a job. You don't have a career. What's going on?" I needed some direction. That's what he provided. And basically, he told me one day, he was like, "Hey, listen, you're going to come to me and you're going to work for me and you're going to shave your beard and you will show up to me Monday, clean shaven, 15 minutes early to my job." And I was like, okay. And it was really cool because it taught me a very valuable lesson as a young child, a young kid, just, the importance of punctuality, professional appearance. And ever since that day, as he made me clean shave and cut my hair, I never went back. And, and one of his stories was he started out in the video sales business, rentals, before
Okay.
Blockbuster was a thing.
Really?
Yep. He started out
Early
in there.
then.
And that was one of his later ventures. And, that he started doing that. But what got him to that point, got him that work ethic was he used to do shoe sales. Basically, he rode along in a box truck with a driver. They had a box truck full of shoes. And he would put the shoes for the shoe store on a hand cart and walk it inside and say, "Hey, here's your shoes for the week. Here's your inventory that you wanted." And he comes back one day he delivers his shoes on the hand cart. And he comes back one day to the driver and the driver goes, "Hey, man, you're going too slow. We need to pick up the pace. We have this many orders to do. We need to fill them. I need you to pick up the pace." And he told me ever since he got told that one time, every store he went into, he would run with that handcart and pick up his pace for every single stop after that.
Oh, wow.
And, just that sort of work ethic has netted him just so many great opportunities, a lot of which is what he worked for. One of the hardest working men that I've ever met in my life. And just really, really just, I just have to, pay homage to him in that sense that he's really, along with him, Gary, my father, a lot of inspirational men and father figures in my life that I needed at times of, hard times and stuff where I didn't have the direction I needed, absolutely went above and beyond to make sure that I understood and needed the information and skills to be able to become successful as I have, now.
It's interesting you mentioned a little bit ago how when working for was it your uncle?
Yes.
You said that he expected you to show up on time or early with a clean shave and a haircut. And you know what? I don't know if this is like just a kids these days type of comment, but it seems like the bar is set so low where if you just show up ready to work, you're going to be successful. And a lot of guys can't even accomplish that.
I we live in a more progressive society nowadays, and I feel like, back in the day, if you had gauges in your ears, you were tatted up, long hair, you were looked at as some sort of outcast, like, oh, well, this guy's lazy,
Yeah.
and that's not the case nowadays,
That guy's on
but
drugs because he has tattoos.
yeah, exactly, hippie, whatever sort of shit you want to say to him, and not hire him. Nowadays, which I'm sure is, there's plenty of successful men that have all those attributes to them. And that now, being that we're in a more progressive society, that has definitely proven to be true that you don't need to be clean shaven, haircut, no tattoos, whatever. You see plenty of lawyers, doctors out there that are all tatted up. Like they have those separate portions of their lives where they look like a rock band guy when they're not in their uniform or their scrubs or whatever it may be.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say you see plenty of those individuals. You see some.
I would say in my field, more often than not, I see people who are very professional that typically don't look professional when they're not at work.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I agree with you there. Like, I've seen some guys at my job where they'll, be all looking straight and looking good, and then you might catch them on a weekend somewhere and see them downtown or whatever it is, and they're almost unrecognizable.
yeah, yeah. So we touched on, some good bosses, bad bosses. Have you had a great boss, someone who has absolutely just made an influence on you? I know you talked about Radio Lady or whatever the hell she was doing,
Right.
just not very kosher. Do you have anybody that you could come to mind that he was a very great boss that you kind of think, maybe he wasn't the owner of the company or, the highest manager or whatever, but somebody above you that really like was able to guide you and mentor you in a certain way that comes to mind when you think about that?
Oh, I think I do. I know I had some guys, and they would be like my direct supervisor, wouldn't necessarily be like the company CEO or whatever it is. But they just take that time to listen to what you have to say and care, and they weren't scared to show you their job because they're worried you're going to take it from them and have no job, because obviously they're trying to get promoted to the next level themselves, and they understand that by making me better, their performance being the supervisor of me looks better. And I've had several of those. I don't know if I can think of any great story to tell on those, but I can think of a couple people individually that I really valued their expertise and experience.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I know I had a buddy. He worked I lived in a very small town in upstate New York growing up. I had
Oh yeah,
yeah. 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 Oh yeah. I had a buddy and he worked for the town. You got your town employees.
yeah.
And he had
city
this
employees, dude. We're all familiar with what a city worker is.
Yeah, well, I didn't live in a city. My town had like 1,378 people in it. We had like one stoplight in the middle of the town and other orange blinking lights. So a very small town. And he had this job working for the town, and he was I don't know if he municipal. I don't even know how you would say it, but he worked for the town.
Constable? Was he a police
Constable.
officer?
Yeah, he was like, no, he was not a constable. He was not. But he had this one boss that absolutely drove him to insanity. Just completely, just would berate him, insult him. It could be anything from, hey, like me looking across the desk at you now. Hey, Justin, you clicked your phone screen twice, or you hung up your phone the wrong way.
Right.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you retarded? Are you stupid? Hey, you were 16 minutes early, not 15 minutes early. Are you stupid? Can you not tell time? Just not even like logical arguments where you'd be like, oh, I can understand, why, that makes sense. And his name was Scott. His boss's name was Scott. And to this day, I wish nothing but the worst for Scott. Complete piece of shit. Just utter scumbag of the earth. Just a terrible human that I wish nothing but the worst for. We'll leave it at that. And he would just berate this guy, and he drove my buddy to utter like insanity, just completely off the deep end, just questioning everything. And to this day, my buddy loved that job. He can't go back to it because of how much of a bad taste was left in his mouth from having such a terrible boss like that. So
That's a
you got to
shame.
think when you're mentoring people and you're leading people, you're setting the tone for how they're going to view the work they're doing, the leaders they're going to have in their future jobs, and hopefully a lot of people who are experiencing a shitty boss or a shitty mentor,
Right.
probably they're probably not going to be your mentor if they are, because you won't stick around with people like that. But if you're experiencing a shitty boss, hopefully that gives some people the energy and the how would you say, like gumption to want to not be like that when you're in that position. One of the biggest things that I take is when I listen to my bosses, I have a few bosses, right? So when I listen to them, I kind of think of, okay, I agree with you on these subjects or these aspects of your leadership style, but I don't like these. And when I'm doing that, I'm taking these mental notes. So when I get in their position and I take their job, I'll be able to form how I'm going to be as a leader
Right.
and really like kind of narrow that down. Like one time I had this boss that said, hey, listen, she said the exact same thing. Her name was Tora, some Hispanic name, Jessica Tora. I don't even know what it was.
And
But,
you hated her because she was a woman?
I didn't hate her.
Oh,
Oh no, I'm telling you. She said that. She was like, hey, listen, you listen to all these people, you take the good things and you weed out the bad things, and you develop how you're going to be when that happens.
Tom, I was just listening to some
What up?
radio earlier today, and I caught a sweet ass Beatles song on the radio. And
Was it
my
Eleanor Rigby?
no, it was actually, you know what? This is not even a Beatles song. I was listening to Revolution by John Lennon after he broke up with the Beatles.
Oh, God.
But it got me thinking about the Beatles, and they're one of my all-time favorite bands. And I just wanted to hear, what are your thoughts on the Beatles? Are they overrated?
Well, let's get this out of the way. I think it needs to be said. How my dad would say and what he would say about the Beatles is they're a bunch of talentless hacks.
Talentless hacks.
Talentless hacks. Now, do I agree with that statement? No, not much. But I have to say, growing up, you can get the Beatles. It was a yellow CD, a Beatles one. I had a one on it. It was a yellow background with a white one. And I feel like it was their like top hits sort of CD. And my mother was, RIP. She was like one of the biggest Beatle fans that I could have ever seen. And so I grew up with the Beatles in the sense that my mother introduced it to us at a very young age and continued to, listen to them. Eleanor Rigby,
Yeah.
one of my favorites. Let
Yes.
It Be. You can't go wrong with Let It Be.
Oh, that's a
And,
classic.
I don't even know if this is as big as the rest of them, but The Yellow Submarine is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, that's humongous. I don't know what you're talking about right now, dude. Yes, it's humongous. It's one of their biggest hits ever, which is kind of strange because it's one of the more rare songs in the fact that it's basically led by Ringo Starr, the drummer.
I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Yellow Submarine, was it not introduced in the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band record?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely loved it. And I loved it, because I'm a big guy on fan art and cover art and stuff like that. And I remember I would take my mom, she had a record of the Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yes.
And, you would just have that giant, little, fucking record cover. And there were so many different things in that you could look at. And, we come from a time now where, records really, they don't get produced anymore.
No, not real ass records, except in rare occasions.
And to have like a platinum record, it's not really a record. It's, it's
an album, they call it these days.
Yeah. So the Beatles, I love them. It has a special place in my heart. We listen to it. We play golf a lot. I always throw on Let It Be.
Yeah, usually when we're swinging the clubs, we're listening to like Beatles or Elvis or something old school.
Well, you just brought up Elvis. I'm fairly certain, aren't you not a big Elvis guy?
I am a big Elvis guy. One of the things actually I really enjoyed about Elvis is when I'm this time of year, as a matter of fact, when I'm setting up Christmas decorations, I like to put on a little Bing Crosby or a little bit of Elvis or Sinatra.
Really?
They have their own Christmas collection, if you will, and I just love to listen to those classic Christmas tunes.
Now, I remember because we have the albums on our phone. Elvis is like, I don't know. I'm not even sure what album it was. But did he produce or sing in a song or make a song that is like the 007 like theme song. There's one of his songs that he puts
Mm.
on there, and it sounds like when he plays it, it's what I used to play on Nintendo 64, GoldenEye, James Bond GoldenEye, 007, whatever the hell you want to call it, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with Goldeneye.
It was one of those songs on there. So I remember when we first got to Hawaii, we were staying in a hotel for a while, and down there, we were on the ninth floor, top floor of the hotel,
Yeah, we were.
and we always used to watch. We'd have a couple whiskeys, and we'd sit down and we'd watch the Elvis movies that were projected on the side of the building.
Yeah, they had the one where he's running around on a boat. I don't remember the name of it,
He
but
punched a guy, and then he showed his abs a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, good old classic fucking Elvis movies, man. He did 3 or 4 movies back in the day, man. I guess they weren't super popular. Maybe would have just completely transitioned over to a acting career, but
See, I don't think you had to be popular or the movies had to be popular at the time, because you're looking at Elvis, this gorgeous man at the time. And, that was just being able to see him in camera. And, and my mom always used to make that joke. And I think it's a well-known thing that one of his nicknames is Elvis the Pelvis.
yeah, because he
Yeah.
would gyrate his hips and everything around, especially early on.
I remember we did a little research on Elvis, and he had quite the sexual history.
Yeah, he got a little weird with it, I think.
Definitely. He was watching people have sex. You
Yeah.
know, I want to say, what did he drug people? There was something in there about him doing something with, like, he loved younger women. That was his thing. And what else was it? Do you remember offhand?
So one of the things that comes to mind for me, I don't know why this is so overlooked, but I gotta say, maybe I'm wrong on this, and go ahead and email us back if you have a little bit more knowledge than myself or Tommy Two Gloves has on Elvis. But when he met his wife Priscilla Presley, I think she was like 14 or 16 or something,
Super
real
young.
real young. Yeah.
It was a different time back then. If that's what he's into, I don't necessarily agree with it or whatever. But I feel like I don't really can't and don't and really want to have an opinion on that. So if that's just what happened, that's what happened. Love his music, and especially being in Hawaii, I think we now more than ever. I don't remember in Colorado when we were there. I don't think we ever really subjected ourselves to Elvis that much. But being here, you can't beat having a little island, fun time, island fever, whatever you want to call it, and listen to some Elvis.
Yeah, I mean, Elvis songs are great. They're classics. Everybody knows them. So it's just one of those things you can turn on and either sing along, know the words, or at least just know the song. It's a good experience.
Of course, of course. Well, bring us on in to Pearl Harbor. We're coming up on something.
So at the date of this recording, anyway, right now it's December 6th. I'm not exactly sure when this is going to be published, but as we all know, December 7th, 1941 was when the famous attack on Pearl Harbor happened. And so, being a couple of guys, yourself and myself, living in Hawaii, we have that special experience here where we get to celebrate an anniversary of Pearl Harbor while being very close to Pearl Harbor.
I mean, we live within a 10-15 minute proximity of the USS Arizona.
Absolutely.
Which was, I know, Justin, you were here before, weren't you? Earlier, before we both got here around the same time. You were here before, weren't you?
Yeah, I got to spend a couple weeks here. Shoot, almost 15 years ago now. And of course, as far as Pearl Harbor is concerned, not much has changed over there. But the history is no less significant to me. Like I'm a big fan of service members and World War II history in particular. That's very important to me, and I like to put myself into the position of what just a random dude working that morning when they came through and attacked Pearl Harbor. What would that be like as a person to really kind of just endure that? It must have been one of the most frightening experiences.
I mean, I remember, I went to a hospital maybe a month ago just to get some, my hearing checked, or I don't know if I had some glasses I needed to get a prescription on. But, driving around and being that close and being with, on this island, I felt like what, like you said, what was it like being, maybe 17 through, early, teenager to early 20s, and having some sort of attack happen? What were the smells like? What did the sky look like?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
sort of pandemonium? Like, were there, obviously there were civilians on the island
of
and,
course.
just regular old Joes and just people that lived here. Now, what was that like, for them? Did grocery stores shut down? Like, it gets so in depth. Or gassy. Like, did everybody just go take and, duck and cover? Like, what was it like for everybody around that had to experience, the attack? Like, what for me, a big thing for me is just the smells. You
Oh, I
know,
can only imagine it was complete chaos over here. I know the only thing that comes to mind with any amount of similarity to that would be something you and I both lived through, which was the World Trade Center attack of September 11th, 2001.
yep, I
So
remember that specific. I remember I was in, I believe, second grade at the time, and call me a controversial. What would you say? Controversy? Somebody who's into
are you
controversies and
talking like a conspiracy theorist?
conspiracy theorists, stuff like that.
Wow.
Call me that. But I remember walking down the hall in second grade, and I had this teacher, Mr. Cooper, and I'm walking down the hall, and it's quiet. No one else is in the hall. I just got back from the bathroom. I got a lot of bathroom pass in my hand. And this kid runs down the hall and he screams to this teacher who's on the hall. So it's the three of us. And he goes, "Hey, Mr. Cooper, they just bombed and destroyed the world, the Twin Towers." And Mr. Cooper goes, "What? Did they finally bomb them?" And as a young kid with some different perspective, I instantly thought, what do you mean? Did they finally bomb him? Is he just that progressive that he understands that that's a big target?
Hmm.
Or, that was something that stuck with me my whole life. Like, why did he know? And why did he say, well, did they finally do it? That was super weird to me and just
That is a little
super,
strange.
yeah, it is strange. So, the first plane hit and, we went home. And as I got home, because I lived like 3 minutes from the school, the second plane hit. I remember just watching on my TV. My mom's, because I'm a New Yorker as well as my whole family.
Of
That's where I
course.
grew up. I remember my mom looking at the screen and watching the second plane hit, and just because we had family in New York, and so that was hit very close home for me. At being at such a young age, where like you can remember things and things make an impression on you.
Yeah.
It was so different. And we went to visit my nanny and grandpa down there in Brooklyn, in Bensonhurst. A month and a half, 2 months later, and there was still smoke coming from it. It was still cleanup operations and dealing with all that sort of stuff.
Hey, so that must have been something to live through. So when 9/11 happened, I was a few years older than you. I was already a teenager at that point. And I know just the level of uncertainty that myself and plenty of other people must have lived through at that point. What's going to happen next? And obviously, it
Yeah.
pretty much kicked off a 20-some year war with the Middle East. But it's just scary. But let's go ahead and turn right back around to Pearl Harbor real quick. And let me ask
Oh
you,
yeah.
do you have a favorite maybe Pearl Harbor story that sticks with you? I know I've got one.
So I actually have one. A big thing for me. My grandfather served in World War II in the Pacific, and I don't know. And that's something I have to like contact my aunts and uncles about, and like kind of get a better view on the story. But I remember my grandfather, living through that time and stuff. He told me the story, and it was him and his buddy Roscoe, and these sirens would go off
Now,
when
where
they get.
was he? Was he at Pearl Harbor?
You know what? I think he was. The reason I say
No
that is
shit.
because he said these sirens would go off, and when you would get like, kamikazes would come in, and the siren went off. I don't know what boat he was on, but what would happen was if you were down in the bay or you're down in your barracks or in your bunk, they would, sound the sirens, you'd hear them, and they would actually shut off the boat in chambers. So if one chamber got hit and it flooded, the rest of the boat wouldn't go down. So
Yes.
him and his buddy Roscoe are down there, and I think he retired as technical sergeant because they had technical ranks back then. I don't know what rank he was in the military at that point, the army, obviously. I don't know what rank he was, but he said to his buddy Roscoe, "Hey man, if this boat goes down, we are trapped in the bottom of this boat and we will die, a watery grave and be down here
Yeah,
the whole time.
absolutely.
So he told his buddy Roscoe, we need to get the hell out of here. And, as a young kid, I was probably 11 when he was telling me this. He has tears in his eyes. And I tell you what, it's so hard to keep yourself together when you see a World War II veteran crying. Anybody older, stuff like that, what they've seen, it brings a tear to your eye. And he says to his buddy Roscoe, hey, we need to get the hell out of here. We need to get to the top of the boat. So he pushes back one of the, higher up soldiers or whoever was in charge of locking down those sections of the boat. They push through the one guy, locking them into the lower deck, and make their way to the top of the boat. So he grabs his buddy Roscoe. The anti-aircraft guns are going off. It's absolute pandemonium.
Must be.
Yeah, he grabs his buddy Roscoe and he goes, follow me. He grabs him. They run over and they like hide behind. I don't know what the aircraft was, but they dip down and they hide behind. I don't know if it was a supply truck that was, supplying things on the aircraft or whatever vehicle aircraft it was. And I remember him telling me the way the kamikazes would come down is they would come down from like the sunlight. So to look up at them, you'd be looking into the sun.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
So like you can't tell, you have to look away because you're looking into the sun. And the sirens are going off and he sees this kamikaze. It's coming down at him. It's almost like he has eye contact with the guy. It's diving at him, at William Abruzzi. It's diving at him. At the last possible moment, it banked left, turned an immediate left, and blew up the ship next to him.
Wow.
And that's what he had to deal with on that day. And, he went on further to, be in, other conflicts and, deal with everything else that was going on in the Pacific, because Pearl Harbor wasn't only it, and
it was the beginning for the United States.
It was the beginning. And, he did that and he was there for that. And, just being able to experience his stories and kind of get his viewpoint on what it was like being a soldier at that time in the Army and deal with all those issues was just, he lived through the Depression, and those stories, the Depression stories were just absolutely insane,
Oh, god awful time.
Just filling he would fill his shoes with cardboard because they had holes in the bottom of it. So he could walk to school and not have his feet just destroyed or dirty or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Not having any food, and his parents did the best they could. And especially being in New York, such a hustle bustle city and, some big place like that, it wasn't good anywhere. And, it was just absolutely insane hearing these stories and trying to kind of put it in perspective. And you really can't. You'll never fully, truly understand, in any sort of military conflict, what people went through and what they had to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think, too, especially if you ever get an opportunity to speak with one of these people, it really brings like a level of realism. It's not just some old story you read about in a book. Like those are people with moms and dads, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives that went through this just terrible experience. And should they happen to survive, the trauma that they must have been left with was just immense. Let me go ahead and tell you about my favorite story as far as Pearl Harbor. So the USS Nevada, it was nicknamed the ship that wouldn't sink. And on December 7th, 1941, among other ships, it became heavily damaged. And they tried to taxi it out of the harbor and get it out into the ocean where it could fight. But it became so heavily damaged, the captain determined that was just not going to happen. It was taking on water. It was going to sink. So in order to not block the harbor, the captain ran it aground so it wouldn't be in the way, so the other ships would then be able to exit.
Really?
Yes. And so they rebuilt the ship and they fixed it and they got it back into fighting shape. And one of the things they did, though, is this ship wasn't necessarily the most outfitted ship as far as weaponry. So they stole the guns off the USS Arizona, which was the most catastrophically hit ship of the fleet, completely destroyed. So they grabbed some of these guns off of the USS Arizona, and they mounted them to the USS Nevada. So the ship that wouldn't sink now has a whole new weapon system on there. They take that, and then obviously later on, they go and fight the rest of the war. And one of the key things that it did during the war is the Normandy invasion in France. It was there on D-Day, June 6th, 1944.
Was it really?
Yes, it was.
I didn't know that.
It was
That's
firing
intense.
the USS Arizona's guns on the German soldiers in Normandy,
So
France.
not only did they deal with Pearl Harbor, now they're taking it over to France.
Yes, and they're really just, I mean, and that's just if that doesn't get your, USA boner rolling, I don't know what does.
I have to tell you, Justin, you've only told a portion of your story, but I'm already rock hard.
Oh, it's an amazing story. Like, that's just patriotism to the max. And so they go and they are pummeling the beach with the Arizona's guns. There's how many were there? There was 1,000 dead soldiers thanks to the Arizona.
I want to say maybe, was it around 1,300?
I think that sounds about right.
It was
1,300, 1,200 maybe.
Yeah, but it was somewhere in that range.
So not only was it just a way to refit a ship to get it into the fight and put some weapon systems onto the ship, but it's carrying that legacy from all those fallen soldiers, or I guess they're not soldiers, they're sailors.
Yeah.
And so what a great story that is. And they're pummeling Normandy Beach. And then later on, you'll find that same ship, the USS Nevada, the ship that wouldn't sink. It was there when the Japanese surrendered after we bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima in the harbor on the signing of that peace treaty with Japan.
It's insane. Like you said, if that doesn't get you just rock hard, I don't know what will at that point. Sometimes, I'm a big history buff. I remember, my dad, I always talk to him, almost every day. And, nothing on him, but, me being a big history buff, I'm, a big fan of the World War II conflicts, that happened there.
Oh, it's what do they call it? The Greatest Generation? They're called that for a reason.
And I just remember, like, my dad telling me, like, he called me up one day and he was like, yeah, I'm just, got some Family Guy on, just falling asleep. I usually turn off Family Guy and like, you're over here, me, and I fall asleep to World War II in color or the Pearl Harbor documentary or anything I can get my hands on that will better inform me about World War II is just, it's like crack cocaine to me. I love it. I cannot stand it.
Well, if you love that, there's even a little bit more to the story. So
I want you to tell me, please.
So
tell
after
me
the
now.
Japanese surrender and the USS Nevada is sitting in the Japanese harbor, the war has ended and the USS Nevada has come back and the United States government has determined that ship is too old and the technology is too out of date. They don't need the USS Nevada anymore. So they commission it as a target ship. They paint
I don't understand.
They paint it orange. They paint the whole ship orange, and they push it out near the Bikini Islands.
Oh, so like, hey, here's your target, like almost just to draw a fire.
Yes,
right?
it's training for the new equipment that's coming.
And that was the Nevada?
That was the USS Nevada. So they paint it orange and they push it out there, and they fire an atomic bomb at it.
Really?
And it fails to sink the ship. That's why it's called the ship that wouldn't sink.
God, dude, I'm literally, I just want to give me a pair of jumper cables and a car battery. My nipples are so hard right now. You could fucking.
It's a beautiful story.
God
it's
damn,
such
continue.
a great story.
Please.
So they launch an atomic bomb at it. It fails to sink the ship because that's just a powerful vessel. They launch a second atomic bomb at it, and I'm sure there's testing and there's measurements they're taking off of that. But the thing is, it still fails to sink the Nevada. So they go ahead and they launch a torpedo at it that's very similar to the ones that the Japanese were firing at the ships on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941.
Really?
And that's actually what takes it down is a torpedo.
Not the atomic bombs.
Not the atomic bombs. And it takes on water, and it is now scuttled somewhere in the South Pacific, just a few miles off from the Hawaiian Islands where we are right now. And that's the end of the story as far as that goes. What a great story it is.
I'm assuming that there were no personnel on that boat.
No, it was just a target ship. They park it out there and shoot at it.
Get some tugboats out there, push it on out. Like, hey, like, it's orange now, like this, yeah, that's intense.
Looking at it now, 80 years later, I wish they would have done something different. I wish they would have, parked it somewhere, made it a display so that history could be on display. Put it
hindsight's 2020.
Near the Smithsonian. Like, I know they did take some of the guns off of the Nevada. I think the ones actually that were on the Arizona and the Nevada, I think those might be at the Smithsonian or a museum, if not the Smithsonian. I'm pretty confident in that. But the ship itself is well below water. It'll never come up again. It's too far deteriorated, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
you know what was very weird for me was me and you both when we first got on island here. We took a trip over. The first thing we wanted to do, me and you, we could talk about military history for days, and we appreciate it more than anybody could ever understand. Or maybe not. I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners out there that also appreciate World War II history as much as we do. But I remember we went out to the USS Arizona, and it was it's your whole demeanor changes. It's, they made a great memorial for that. And
100%.
just building it over the USS Arizona, the one thing that struck me as, a big eye opener for me and something that was just so just different and weird and crazy to me was leaning over the side and watching oil still drip out
Still
of
to this day.
still to this day. And like, you got to think about it. Imagine if you go down there, Justin, you're just swimming around. If you had the opportunity to swim around the USS Arizona, scuba dive, whatever,
Oh, I'm
and you
sure they wouldn't let you do that.
oh, well, there is very specific circumstances where you are allowed to scuba dive around the Arizona. And that's if you're linked to somebody to rest who served on the Arizona, they will take your ashes down there and they will release them into the Arizona.
That's correct. So
And
if you had served on the Arizona, you are entitled to have your remains laid with the Arizona, and they will have
yep,
a scuba diver bring it down there. But
exactly.
other than that,
Wh-
there's very, very limited
yeah.
interaction with the
And
Arizona.
what got me for it, which was a big eye opener for me, and it it almost brought me to tears just being there at the
Oh,
memorial.
it's so solemn. It's such a prolific experience. I
Well,
highly encourage anybody that has any interest in their family members that may have served in the war or even other wars that they can really associate with the kind of turmoil that they must have felt that day.
what really solidified it for me was looking at the oil drip out and seeing pools and not even pools, like drops and little just bits of oil drip out of there. Just to be able to touch that oil for me would be such an incredible experience. Just that you're touching something that is a part of history. It could be something as simple as oil, fuel, whatever it may be, from that age and time and that specific event. For me, it's just if I could just touch it and just almost be a part of that for a split second, be like, wow, rub it between my fingers and be like, wow, this is, older than I am by a long shot. Almost what is it like? 44 or 41 would have brought you up to 59 plus 22. That, yeah, 81 years. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something 81 years old, and just being able to experience that, is just insane for me.
I know
So
what's interesting to me too is like when you go on that pavilion they erected over the Arizona. So there's a platform you take a ferry out to it, and you can
yeah,
get on that pavilion,
yep,
and there are displays, there's plaques on the walls. Everybody's name is listed on the wall of the USS Arizona Memorial. And one of the things too is you have to recognize that you have been out to the Arizona, but so have presidents, Japanese emperors, heads of state. Like, it is a landmark piece of history.
and that's a big thing that I think a lot of people overshadow or overlook. I'm sorry, overlook. And not only was it a conflict that we had to deal with it, but also Japan. And as much as I'd like to say, well, fuck the enemy or fuck those guys, right? At the time when these men were drafted or were serving and were called to serve, so were the Japanese. So if
Yeah.
you think about it, if you're in the military now, or and that's your job, your country called on you to perform this mission. Well, so did the Japanese. So there has to be, in a sense, as shitty as it sounds, there has to be a certain mutual respect to be like, well, we did what we were supposed to do, and the Japanese soldiers that were, they did their job, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were expected to go out there and
Yeah,
execute this attack,
both of us,
regardless of how they felt about the United States or anything.
exactly.
And they probably, I can't speak for every Japanese person, obviously, but some of them probably just wanted to do their job and go home.
Exactly. And that's one of the weirdest things is like, sometimes there's a higher calling and you have to just sometimes it's just your job, regardless of your views on it, but it's your job. And maybe it doesn't make you proud, maybe it doesn't make you happy, but you can't fault someone for doing what, their country calls on them to do.
Absolutely.
A lot of good times, a lot of good topics we hit, but like I think we should end it with, almost a remembrance for somebody who I know is a part of, my life in a sense that maybe not directly, someone who's affected me, on a personal level, but I don't know how would you say like, somebody who's like, giving me some sort of entertainment in my life. So,
Yeah, basically an icon of our generation or the generation
exactly.
before, maybe so.
Exactly. Rest in peace, Christy Alley.
Yes.
I remember waking up, I'd stay home from school the night before and I'd wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and see Christy Alley on there, advertising whatever she may be advertising. Right. So, like you hit me up actually the other day, you called me and you were like, yo, dude, just so you know, Christy Alley had passed away.
Right. Yeah. So I remember growing up, I'd see her on all the old episodes. Cheers. Then they're, in the 80s or whatever it was.
The place where everybody knows your name.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who doesn't at least, if you haven't seen an episode of Cheers, you must have lived under a rock or something like that.
100%.
And so that's the thing everybody automatically associates her with. But she's been in other pieces of work too. And, she's just a great actress. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like myself, she's originally from Kansas.
Like far away from you? Like, because I know you grew up in a smaller town. Like,
yeah, I grew up in a smaller town. Little town's called Winfield. It's about 45 minutes to an hour away from Wichita, Kansas, which is where she is originally from.
Okay, well, so she actually got her start in Star Trek.
Is that so?
Yep. It was when she got her start, it was in Star Trek 2, because you know how many Star Treks they've had.
Oh, yeah.
It was the New Generation. It was Star Trek 1, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. And that's really where she started her own, thing. And, she wound up marrying Parker Stevenson. And at that point, she, something that rings a bell in my head was, she adopted children with her husband at the time.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Parker Stevenson, right? And, being that me, I'm adopted. So for, that's very close in my heart. So super dope, super dope. And, they had a divorce.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes, and they adopted kids. And she also was, and I got to say, to be honest with you, in her prime and even throughout her life,
yes,
she was a dime.
She was rocking.
Yeah, she was not bad, right?
Now, how old was she when she passed away? Was it 70?
71?
71? Okay.
71, was it 70 or 71? I really don't know.
That feels a little bit young to be passing away. That's unfortunate that she had to go so early. Christy Alley she's just amazing.
I mean, in today's day and age, 70, you're young.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And that's dope. That's dope as fuck. Like, yeah, you're like 70 and you're young. Yeah, awesome. Just goes to show you it's a pure testament to the way technology has came and, the medical advances we've made and how long actually people can receive the proper health care that they need to be able to live long, fulfilling lives. Right.
Yes.
Right. So also, I don't know if you know this, but she was on A Bunny's Tale, which was super fucking hot. She was in bunny ears, like almost like Play Bunny sense outfit-esque, if you will.
Okay.
Super hot. And then The Prince of Bel-Air, which was also super fucking dope. So
you talking about the Will Smith show?
Yes.
Really?
The Prince of Bel-Air. Yep. Yeah. Born in Prince of wherever the fuck, doing the whole thing, basketball.
Yeah, you really butchered that, but yeah.
Taxi guy, doing his whole thing. Yeah, you know what it's like. So
yeah.
she won an Emmy for her role and work on Cheers. And I know Cheers. My mother and my father have both been to the original Cheers bar. It's the place that some would say where everybody knows your name.
As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they've recently closed down the original Cheers bar.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard somewhere. I don't know if that's even true. Maybe I just completely made all that up. But that's what I'm understanding right now is they have closed down the original Cheers bar.
Well, I have to say, it's a shame.
Yes.
And it sucks.
I think, though, bars are like, they're not really what they used to be in this day and age. I don't know if it's a social media issue or whatever, but nobody really seems to want to get out of their house anymore. They don't want to go to clubs. They don't want to listen to music. They don't want to go dancing. They just want to, do TikTok and everything like that.
I think COVID really fucked it up for everybody. And I think, on our end, it's almost found beneficial because, COVID really pushed everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, everybody was kind of like shut in.
Yeah.
It was very noticed because, like me being like a New Yorker, you got the Californians who, or are West Coasters, right?
Uh-huh.
And you got you kind of like in between the middle of both those.
Right.
Right in the middle of it. It was so different because everyone kind of handled it differently. And that's okay. But, I think it kind of like shut down a lot of things and like, kind of like gave everybody an opportunity to step back and kind of figure out what's going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, COVID kind of just, I don't know, fucked everybody in the ass, which is kind of good for you because you kind of like fucking in the ass.
And here's the thing, as contrary to popular belief, I don't love ass stuff. And as the young Joe Exotic would say, isn't the reason you're with a woman for the vagina? He once said that, hey, straight males out there, why are you being a straight male and trying to fuck girls in their asses? Isn't that the whole point of fucking a girl for the vagina? And, that's not to bash him because, you know me, I'm a big anal guy.
That's what I'm saying. I was pretty sure that you actually liked having anal sex with women.
I actually do. But I don't like having it with men. And no bashing on people that love that. But like, if Christy Alley came out to me and was like, hey, I'm Christy Alley, flips hair. You're Thomas. And I want to give you a run for your money. I'm doing what I can. I've been with plenty of other older women and stuff like that. That like they're just boxes, amazing. But like, let's bring it back.
If Christy Alley comes along, you accept whatever she's going to give you.
If Christy Alley came up to me at any point in my life and she's like, hey, I'm Christy Alley, you might have seen me on paid programming at 3 a.m. Like, well, I'll do whatever I can for you, ma'am. What's going on?
Right.
But I think, we have to say for the show's sake and for our personal sake and like just our hearts go out to the family of Christy Alley herself, and just, being the younger generation and being able to experience what she's given us and some things that me and you bond over a lot more, it's a very good time. But let's just leave it on a good note. We all have a life, a long life to live. We're all here. We're all healthy. So let's go chalk this up to next week. We'll figure out. I think we got some Black Rifle guys. We got somebody going on. We got maybe some, I think we have an NFL guy that I think we're going to try and have on in a few weeks or so. Maybe.
Yeah, you keep talking about him. He was on the last episode we talked about.
Yeah, Chris.
Too, and,
you know his name. What's his name?
Chris Fumatsu.
I mean, we met him.
We'll see about him.
He's like here next to us. Like he's very close. So I think we might try to like relay some information over him, have him in as a caller or something like that.
Oh, that'd be great.
It'd be great. I know it would. So
hey, so let me go ahead and before we leave, let me just go ahead and say if you have any comments or questions or anything about the show, feel free to reach us at ingearpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. We're going to go ahead and probably close this down for tonight, but I'm Justin.
And I'm Thomas.
Hope you have a great night.
Hell yeah.